Labor Day freight. Let's take a look at what that looks like today. So stay tuned about a couple of minutes and we'll be right back. Go. Happy music. Oh, yeah. Good morning. Good morning, all. Hope you have your cup of coffee. All right, let's see here. Makes you talk funny. Makes you talk funny. Good morning. Hope all is well. It is August 29th, Friday. The first day I've been able to go live this week. So I apologize for that, but it's what happens when you're busy, which is good. Busy can be good. Busyness, however, can keep you from a lot of things. So, but anyways, good morning. Hope all is well. I know I keep saying that, but I truly mean that, because if you're doing well, that means that you won't be an a-hole to people out there in the world. Hopefully you're not like that, right? We got the coffee going. I've got everybody booked till Tuesday. Now, am I going to bother to look for freight today? Yeah, I'll bother a little bit, but everybody's kind of up in the air, and it seems like Friday before the Monday, it's tough to get a good rate. So usually Monday mornings are slammed for me. Fridays are usually slammed for me. Usually Friday, I'm trying to get everybody all lined up for the weekend and everybody else, but I've got the trucks home where they wanted. I got the trucks running where they wanted, and we're good. And I don't expect, knock on wood, a whole lot of activity with the carrier today. So I'll be able to work on some music projects and then clean up some emails and work on some safety stuff and things of that nature. Try to occupy my time versus scrolling. Speaking of doom scrolling, I've been reading a book called Atomic Habits. It's been really good. You should go check it out. Audio version is pretty good. I finished the audio version, still reading the physical version because I'm that weird guy that does both. So, but anyways, I'm glad to see everybody in here. I'm glad to see that you guys and gals have not abandoned me, and I'm lucky to see the familiar faces. So we're going to go over some spot market report stuff that CDN sends me, and then we're going to go over some volumes, see what that looks like. Here's the thing: Labor Day strategies. What I saw in the last couple of days is a lot of loads being canceled at the last minute or a lot of drop trailers. Labor Day is one of the top weekends that freight gets stolen physically out of the trailer. So, and I have to use the term physically because, freight can be stolen digitally as well. So a lot of brokers are wondering where you're going to park the trailer over the weekend. I remember when I was at Landstar, they had this big story about they had like 5 trucks broken into at the yard in Dallas over Labor Day weekend, that it was all TVs and electronics and stuff like that. So there will be an uptick of those, because people know that the trucks are sitting until Tuesday. Hopefully you got lucky and you got a load that delivers a Dollar General or a Walmart or a place like that doesn't close, that's open 24/7, and you can keep moving. If you are not booked by the end of the day for your Tuesday load, it could be a challenge. Right now, if you're looking for a load that picks up and delivers on Monday, just make sure you do diligence and call the broker and call the shipper or receiver if your rate says that you're allowed to, and make sure that you confirm. That way you're not sitting twiddling your thumbs Monday morning because you've got to close the gate in front of you, or you got a security guard checking his scratch. Yeah, there's nobody here to load you or unload you. And that happens all the time. That was one of the things I liked about working at Schneider, is I was able to bypass a lot of that with the drop and hook, right? The warehouse might be closed, the staff might be closed, but the guard check can give me my paperwork and I can sign for it and I can drop and hook a trailer. So, but in the spot market with your own trailer, you don't have that luxury. So you have to be very diligent about if you know your customers, and there was a lot of Raycon and load adjustments that I had to do because they find out that, oh, this is supposed to deliver Monday, but it didn't. So now it's going to Tuesday. And so a lot of shenanigans going on with the freight. Now, something I will address right now. Hold on. Let me get a sip of coffee. I've been telling you for a couple of weeks now that with the English speaking thing, it's made a difference in the market. And I've been telling you that there's been this uptick of loads that are impossible to do. Like stuff that's 800 miles that picks up at, noon today, delivers 8 a.m. tomorrow, that kind of stuff. Okay. And there was a conversation I had with the broker yesterday. I was wheeling and dealing on a load, and it was 150 mile deadhead, picked up in Memphis, or no, it was somewhere in Tennessee, and it had to deliver Tampa, Florida tomorrow, the next day. And so I emailed the broker, and they're like, or actually I was texting with that broker on GChat. I do that a lot, which it's a good strategy. I know that as a driver, you can't do that a whole lot, or do that because you can't be texting and driving. But it's a good strategy for me because I can be chatting with one broker and then still wheeling and dealing on my email. I can also be making calls all at the same time. But anyways, let me go back to the transit time. So this particular broker, I was like, look, this load legally can't be done. What you need is a super solo or a team, and I, we can't make this work. And that person agreed with me. And they said that usually these super solos like to have you adjust the time, which is why they schedule it. In other words, they were saying, yeah, we schedule it usually normally, but here lately everybody's been wanting the time shortened, so that's why we did it that way. And I said, there's only 2 ways you can do this: a super solo team or a team, or you unplug the ELD. I don't have either one of those capabilities, so I'm out. And they agreed it wasn't a legal load. They agreed it wasn't a legal load for a single driver. But was it advertised as a team? No. And I'm seeing that over and over and over. And I think that hopefully, with what's going on at the way stations, what's going on at the agricultural stations, what's going on with all of that, changes that practice. Now, I could be wrong, but as a broker, you have to know your transit times. You have to know the terrain. You're not going to average 65 miles an hour or 70 miles an hour going from, say, St. Louis to Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. There's too many 55 speed zones. There's too many. There's too much traffic, right? So, if you're going from, say, Kansas City to, or like Omaha, Nebraska to Salt Lake City, Utah, you could probably average a higher speed. If you're lighter, if you're heavy, you're going to slow down when you get to Wyoming. I guess if you're light, you'll slow down in Wyoming as well. So the transit times are all janky, and they've been janky, and it's every single. It's not just one or two brokers; it's all of them asking for these transit times, and hopefully we can start changing that around a little bit. Because if you're the type of carrier that's unplugging your ELD, you're just going to cause more problems than you're solving. And, and then the other element is people go, yeah, I can get that done. And then they come up with an excuse at the end when they don't make it and say, oh, we had a flat tire. Oh, we had traffic issues. I apologize. Which is why all the rate cons now say $150, $250, $300 late fees because of that. Because 5 years ago, you didn't see that a whole lot. And a bunch of new people flooded the spot market and were admitting to doing that. Next thing you know, there's all kinds of fines if you're late, all kinds of fines if you're not tracking, all kinds of fines if you don't throw in the POD, right? So anyways, just my 2 cents. But I literally had a broker admit that they know that it was a bad time, so they're hoping for that solo team and probably secretly hoping for the person that yank. Oh, this is what PC is for, that kind of thing. So don't be that person, right? Don't be that way. Don't support that. I know in the paper days that was common. That was how you made your money, but those days are gone. Those days are gone. So let's go to the comments here, and then we'll get to the good stuff, right? Good morning, Sterling. I'm glad for your membership. Same thing with Jerome. Good morning. Schmitty Trucker, also a member. Thank you. You members are kicking butt today. Thank you very much. Randy, what's up? Good morning, more from Wildwood, Florida. Desert Oak Pan, good morning. Hope your delivery's going well. KT, good morning. David Edwards, hey, give me a call this weekend. Sterling says no U-turns allowed. This is true. Charity, good morning. Hope you are well. You should have a chat with me as well this today. Shadow Wolf, morning to all you truckers out there. Shadow Wolf showed me the Alaskan chicken. We got red chicken. He has the Alaskan chicken. It is great. Sterling says it's 65 degrees this morning and I'm preparing for impending seasonal change. Yes, it smells like autumn outside. It's glorious. My name is Nobody. Good morning. Also a channel member. Thank you. David Edwards, 58 in Columbus, Ohio. Right now it's 56 for us. Mrs. A is in the house with her first avatar ever for her YouTube channel. Let's see. Everybody's talking to the wife there. 4-hour layover. That's fun. Also very foggy, south side of Columbus. Yeah, I bet. Publix DC has me thinking that I will never shop at one ever. Yes, they tend to be Krogerish. They have great stores down there. But yeah, I feel you. James Shee, good morning from Michigan. What's up? Welcome back. Learning to be a broker. Well, good. Welcome back. Then you should know out of most brokers that you cannot do 650,000 north in one day, right? 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 You're not going to try to push a load like that, right? Your job is to tell your shipper, hey, this needs to pick up Monday and deliver Wednesday, not pick up Monday night and deliver Tuesday morning, right? Gotcha. Mr. Charles, good morning. Hope all is doing well. Yeah, I've seen your race car posts on the Facebooks there. But I hope you are doing well. You are doing well, right? You're currently. Is that true? Is that serious? Are you serious? Are you jiving us? Because you are a jiver. You and your Dorito Mountain Dew self. You do jive a lot. Then one day we'll well, if that's true, we'll have a conversation. I want to know all their tactics. I know some of them, but it's true. Oh, look at you. Look at you working for the dark side. The dark side. All right. So, but anyways, Labor Day freight. Let's take a look at Labor Day volumes. Actually, let's go over this report here real quick. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds. Before I do this, so if you follow me on Facebook, not my Snorelord page, but if you're actually a friend of mine, I've been going through this period where I'm like trying to learn about guitar pedals. This is completely off topic, by the way. Interfaces for computers, recording stuff, that kind of thing. And man, you get on some of these YouTube channels that, man, you can get lost in the weeds. Like I'm looking for a decent interface that's not going to break the bank to help with some recording stuff. And man, you had these guys, I tested 20 of these and they had like parameters and graphs. And I mean, it's like, I just want something I could plug my stuff into, and, and then I've also been researching guitar pedals, which I have a pedal, but I was thinking about my live rig and what that entails, and so now I'm down that rabbit hole. So it's like these guys, there are YouTube guys that have like 50,000 guitar pedals behind them, or 50,000 amps and cabinets behind them, and they're going to give you the rundown of each brand and the chain, and oh man, it's so getting lost in the weeds, like with this freight market stuff. I can understand if you tune it out. I can definitely understand, because I love music and I tune this music stuff out all the time, right? So let's get into this here. Share screen. Forgot how to do this. It's been so long. All right. Wow. All right, this is from the email. So overall market, it's still soft. I don't think it's going to be a long time for in the neutral. Notice flatbed is no longer in the neutral zone. Flatbed's been loosening up quite a bit, actually. I'm starting to see the flatbed people on Facebook starting to complain. Van market, of course, is soft. It has been. Reefer is slowed down a little bit as well. So just kind of, take that as you will, right? National spot rates according to DAT 203 a mile is what van's doing, down from July 206. So it'll be interesting to see what September does compared to August. Look, I was right. Flatbed has gone down 255 a mile to 249. That's a considerable drop in a month time. Reefer went down a little bit. It had a little bit of a spike in July, but now it's calmed down a little bit. So now these numbers are irrelevant. I don't know. Am I saying that right? For the most part, just see the trend, right? Because if you're sitting there and if you're running like nothing but Arizona to Colorado and back, you're probably not seeing a 203 average mile. If you're running from Chicago to Columbus, you probably are seeing that. consistently. You're probably seeing more than that. And I've scored a couple of decent $3 mile loads here lately, and so have the other drivers. When I'm putting in the Raycon, so there is that. Um, but this is just an average across the board, and contract freight. I think we'll have a number there for that too, because everybody thinks the contract is the answer, and it can be for consistency, but contracts are affected by supply and demand just as much. Below the top lane movers reported by Triumph. Triumph is reporting this stuff now. Pittsburgh Chattanooga lane is gone up 9%. Detroit to Atlanta has gone up 8%. Wisconsin Dallas has gone down. Columbus to Chicago. Oh, it's gone down. See, I was talking about that lane earlier. $1.99 a mile. So you probably may not be seeing that. So let's see. Volumes are currently below both 23 and 24 levels. That's what this chart is showing. So capacity is a little bit tighter than 23 and 24. So I mean, there's a lot of janky things going on. That's my new word, janky. Hope you like it. If not, oh well. Inbound ocean. What's that saying? The below chart is showing inbound ocean TUs over the last 3 years. The takeaway from this graph is after a peak in July 2025, inbound TUs have dropped significantly. Most brokers lack the technical ability to embrace new automation. That's interesting. Looking for the dog. He's on the wrong couch, but I won't yell at him. Now look at this chart. Bankruptcy since 2020. Now I know a few of you watching have experienced this firsthand, and I'm very sorry. I've done what I can to inform people to keep this from happening, but it's going to happen regardless, right? Trucking bankruptcy spike over 2 years, 24 and 25. Look at that. The first line is trucking except local. Freight logistics is the second one. Local trucking without storage. Other transportation services. Local passenger transportation. General warehousing and storage. Taxi cabs. Local trucking with storage. So OTR trucking is taking this biggest hit right here. A lot of bankruptcies. Let's see. I don't know what that 150 is. This is according to Bloomberg. So yeah, there's the reality of what we're dealing with. So if you have a company job and your company is secure, be grateful. Definitely not the time to be job hopping. Also, if you're working as a company driver, now this is a given if you're an owner operator, but if you're working as a company driver, you might want to be not so quick on big purchases. In other words, like a car or a boat or anything like that, because you never know when the layoffs might happen. You never know when your freight drops off. I mean, look at what happened with Tyson. People that had Tyson accounts, it was gone. Right? Tyson, that's food. Everybody's gonna eat, right? We hear that saying all the time. But if they can find a way to cut, they will. And trucking companies are usually the first expense to go. Also, trucking companies tend to when they shave off, expenses, the company jobs are usually on the list as well. Now's not the time to make any big purchases In my opinion, this is just my opinion. And maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Somebody told me once that I was afraid of debt. Yeah, I am. So there you go. There's good debt and there's bad debt. And you could definitely throw a lot of good money away chasing after bad money. I know drivers. I speak to drivers all the time, over and over, that have had a truck put them into bankruptcy because they couldn't afford to fix it. Over and over and over, to the point that I could smell it a mile away. So it's common, and we've normalized it. That's just what you do, right? All right. Spot rates are decreasing as demand has slowed. Look for the continue to decrease as we continue in the summer months. Well, that's kind of over. We're now going into the autumn months, so we'll see. That should change. Should. You know how much I love that word. Outbound volume into rejects is at 5.93%. Anything above 6 showing capacity of signing. Well, you're not at 6. Van is that's the overall market. Van is at 5.5. Flatbed has decreased to 11. Reefer has increased to 14. That's good. This is kind of some old data because they're talking about brake safety week. According to data from bankruptcy data, more than 370 transportation and logistic companies have filed for bankruptcy over the last 5 years, with 41% occurring in just the last 2 years. So that's what that original chart was showing. Something to keep in mind, right? Mrs. I got to read this comment. If you think Steve is afraid of debt, you should meet his wife, right? Market summary. U.S. domestic transportation market remains weak, with the outbound tender volume down 13% year over year due to post-July 4th softness. Demand faces headwinds from cautious consumer sentiment, slow interest rate sensitive sectors, rail intermodal growth. That's something else that's taking a freight. And expanding private fleets, reducing for higher demand. So even the private fleets are kind of backing off. Ocean import bookings fell 5% weekly and 17% annually, with an early July peak defying typical seasonality. Ports like LA hit July records, and upstream inventories near ports have surged, creating pent-up demand for downstream holiday shipments, stabilizing transcontinental freight despite declining imports. Tender rejection rates are increasingly sensitive to volume changes and holiday disruptions, signaling tighter capacity. Carriers face challenges from prolonged rate suppression, stricter English language proficiency enforcement, and recent work visa revocations for truck drivers in the market. In other words, all these things are having an impact. A potential Federal Reserve rate cut in September could spur interest-sensitive demand, hastening recovery. The market shows signs of improvement, but needs stronger volume drivers to gain momentum. So there you go. So now go to load available. We'll read some comments and then we'll go to load availabilities. All right. Not too many comments. You guys aren't too active today. The only thing I'm doing is paying off debt. Yep. I gathered that from our conversation last week. And no, I'm glad you're doing that. If you think Steve is afraid of debt, you should meet his wife. This is true. My wife got her first house for $38,000. It was a nice, quaint little house. And so everything's been kind of a benchmark, right? So when you see a pickup truck for 50, that blows her mind. I could buy a house for that. you know? Not so much anymore as far as prices of houses go, but I mean, yeah, we've had our debt. We've gone through that stage. We've had the maxed out credit cards. We've been through that, and then we got through it, got over it, fixed it, and we're very cautious about how we spend our money and whether it's a worthwhile investment or not. So I mean, she listens to the Dave Ramsey thing, so you should too, right? All right, let's put this on Van. A lot of yellow going on in the west, where a lot of it was red. So that means volumes are picking up in like Washington and Oregon. You're still not in Nevada. You're still not going to get a good rate out of there, for the most part. But you can, with more yellow going on, you can create some consistency out west, I think. But now we're heading into the winter months. So number one, September 1st rolls around. That's usually the date that chain laws start going into effect. So if you run out here, make sure that you have your chains on your truck ready to go. So there's that. But there is some consistency there. But remember, your fuel's higher, your fuel mileage goes down in these areas, and weather will start becoming a factor here within the next month. A lot of yellow in the south here, which has made Georgia and Florida kind of struggle. I mean, Florida, there's always a struggle, right? But dynamics are changing in Florida because of the English proficiency thing, and so you might be getting a little bit more money to go into Florida now, and you might actually be able to get a little bit more coming out. And then the other thing is you're going to start seeing brokers start asking for not, they're going to start asking for copies of CDLs because they don't want to do any non-domicile CDLs. You're going to start seeing that trend, or at least we should, because you don't, as a broker, you don't want to risk having your load. Because look, if you get out of service for hours or for a tire or for a repair, a mechanic come out and fix that, right? Then you're on your merry way. But if you're put out of service because of the English thing, well, then what do you? Your freight's stuck at the way station, and so you're paying somebody that can pick up that truck, or you're paying a tow truck to pick up that truck. Either way, that's going to be a bad day for the broker, for the shipper, and for that trucking company, right? So just know that, right? So and so that might affect the South, and then also your reefer freight that goes down I-40 and I-20. I've got friends that run that lane all the time, and they're telling me the amount of the Indian companies that you see that come out of California. Now, did you guys see in Memphis there was a Raj transport was going literally the wrong way on that big bridge in Memphis there between Memphis and West Memphis over the river there? And they had to get him out at gunpoint because he wouldn't get out of the truck, right? Why was he so defiant of getting out of the truck? Probably because he was scared because he didn't understand what was going on. And so you're going to start seeing a crackdown of this, and once we start seeing the brokers start adjust to this, then I think things will be a little bit better. To be honest with you. Anyways, let's take a look at what's coming in. Oh, and Texas is going to be affected by this too. I've noticed that I've been able to see some decent rates going into Dallas and coming out of Dallas. So, but let's look at Missouri. Let's look at the home state here. Shannon's in the house. Gary's in the house. Glad to see you finally ditching the lease purchase monkey that was on your back. And Shannon, good morning. Hope you're doing well. You and your AI self there. All right. So let's sort this by the highest rate. This will get us our long haul stuff. $4,000 to go to Canada. Let's skip these. $38.50 to go to Idaho. I probably would want a little bit more. Neosho, Alberta. A lot of loads going to Canada. Look at that. St. Charles, these are shopping cart loads. These $1.77 to go to California. Yeah, there's probably like 20 stops on this. But maybe not. It's only 5,100 pounds, so maybe it depends, right? So if the shopping carts are going to little stores, you're going to be doing about 20 stops. If they're going to like maybe a super center or 2 super centers, then you've only got 1 or 2 stops. I've done a lot of shopping cart loads in my own truck. 3,200 to go to Londonderry, New Hampshire. $3,000 to go to Florida. There you go. Plant City. That's not too deep. That's not bad. That's not a shopping cart load either. That's Independence, Missouri. That's Kansas City there. Utah, $2.14 a mile to Utah. $1.71 to Phoenix. They're not paying well to go into Phoenix. I found that out. I mean, it's always been kind of like that, but it seems worse than normal. Probably because we're getting a little bit better rate coming out of Phoenix than we used to. Here's one going to Staten Island, New York, $2.59 a mile. Let's take a look at this one. This is shopping carts. So the thing what I like about 123 low board 48065 if you want to try it out for free 30 days. But the thing I like about this tool is that you call on this load and they give you the stops. So let's say it's 3 stops. Then all you got to do is you got to go to mileage calculator, type in your first stop, type in your additional stops, type in your last stop, and it'll give you the tolls. Right? It'll give you the mileage, your average fuel price, and the whole 9 yards. So that's what I love about that that tool. And it's pretty on it. It's pretty accurate in my experience. Now some of you might be like, you're full of it. Nah, it didn't do good for me. Okay. But it's been good for me, right? So anyways, let's take a look at what's coming. Let's see the in and out ratio of Florida. Here it's showing 404 inbound, 274 outbound. Let's see what this looks like. Let's sort this by highest rate. Let's do highest rate per mile. Let's do that. 209 a mile to go from Florida to Georgia. That's where all your higher stuff is going to be. Jacksonville to Birmingham, that's not bad. That wouldn't be a bad place to land. Virginia is a little bit struggle to come out, but $1.88, that's not bad. That's a 2-day run. It's heavy though, so you're going to burn more fuel. $2,000 to go to Arkansas City, Kansas. $1.77. You're under that for 2 days. That's $1,000 a day. It's actually not bad. Little bit of an uptick. Oh, 2 stops. Yeah, Benton, Kentucky. So that's why it's paying a little bit more. Now, the other thing that you have to be careful today, if you're trying to book your truck today, is drop trailer loads. There's going to be a ton of them on the board. So make sure you read your rate cons. Make sure you read the comments in these load sections if they fill them incorrectly. Right? Let's do the highest. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do the highest rate. Let's see where the long haul stuff's going and what that's paying. $3,000 to Vegas, $1.19 a mile. Nope, don't think so. 96 cents a mile to go to Arizona. Nope, don't think so. Let's see. Now Arkansas City comes up. It's 2 stops. That's why. Massachusetts for $1.18 a mile. No, I don't think so. But let's click on it. Let's explore this. 82% below my cost per day. So this is a losing game. Right? What's the it's light. That's one saving grace. $308 in tolls. And your higher fuel price. That's what kills you on this. I would rather do this Florida to Oklahoma City if I had to. Now this is outbound Florida. Let's look at inbound. Let's see what the highest paying thing coming into Florida is. Another great thing about this tool is you can do outbound, inbound with a quick click. 5,700 to go from California to Longwood, Florida. 225 mile. Let's take a look at this. 18%. Oh, it's hazmat. See, every time there's some money on something, there's it's either hazmat, drop trailer, stops that are not listing, or it's a scam, or it's a bad broker. Now, I haven't seen the scam brokers on 123. It's a very secure low board. And as you can see, it went up, right? Well, no, this is two different brokers. So you got Axel with Ontario to Longwood for 57. And then you've got a little bit of a shorter run here for 5. Going to Lee. Mariana, that's going to be a good one because that puts you Mariana's not too bad. Illinois. So the rates today going into Florida are going to be pretty good. My guess is they're having trouble finding trucks to go in there. Even out of Colorado, you can get $1.77 to go in the Ocala. Let's see. Let's take a look at this one. See what the history is on this. Well, it's been about 34, so they're right about. Oh, it's hay. Again, that's not going to be an easy load. That's not going to be a one and done. 12, 20 pallets. You're going to be cleaning that up for a minute. So, and then there's no telling what the shipper is going to be like, what kind of farm you're going on to, and the whole 9 yards. So I'd avoid that load for me, anyways. Ohio to Florida, $3,000, 3,100. What's the date of this? September 2nd. So this isn't until Tuesday. 3,100 go from Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's not bad. September 3rd. That's Tuesday. So they're a little bit lower than what the rate checks got it at. Let's take a look at this. See what the history is on this. Bottled water. So it's going to be heavy. 41 and change on weight. Yeah, Cargo Chief's got this considerably down, which means that it's been going for lower than this 34 for quite a while, but they're at 31. I guarantee this is for Tuesday, or no, Wednesday actually. Wednesday to Friday. So the land in Florida on a Friday, you're going to want to ask for more, but they may not budge because why? Because this is like 5 days from now, right? 5 or 6 days from now. So let's take a look at New York. I haven't looked at New York in a minute. Let's sort this by highest rate per mile. This should take us into deeper northeast. Yep. Yonkers to Springfield, Mass. $1,000 for 136 miles. Let's click on this one. What's the tolls on this? Only $7 on tolls. That's not bad. Of course, you got to deal with New York City stuff, but that's why they're paying so well, probably. Yeah, your highest paying lane is going to be in the Massachusetts or Connecticut. There's one in the Jersey for $400. No, I don't think so. 900 to go from Fishkill to Kingston, Massachusetts. Charity said, read something that said Memphis driver was a medical issue. Maybe. That was a big mistake, unfortunately, Gary. It's a hard lesson learned. Yeah, well, it's hard to believe that Monday is Labor Day. So yeah, let's put this on highest rate so we can see where the longer stuff's going. Oregon, Oregon for $4,300, $1.63 a mile from out of Batavia. Fulton to St. George, $1.47. $1.29 to California, that's normal. $1.84 to Colorado. Here we go. Saratoga Springs, New York to Atlanta, 209 a mile. Let's 15,000 pounds. That's a good load. Let's see if there's anything special. Yep, second stop. That stop's on the way. But they are paying way above average. So here's the thing. How much time is on this load, right? Does that extra stop add an extra day to it? So instead of it's 1,100 miles, $2,300. That would be 1,100 a day, 1,150, I think, if it's done in 2 days. But let's say it's a 3-day run. Now you're dividing 2,300 divided by 3. That puts it at 766 a day, which, if your costs are 500 a day, this is a good run. But you got to see what's coming out of Atlanta as well. Now, the thing with Atlanta is you're going to have some good volumes coming out. Now, hold on a second. All right, back. We back. So, anyways, that's kind of if this is a 3-day run, you're still not doing too bad. But you got to understand what you're going to get out of Atlanta, right? So that's what I like about that. I would rather do this Atlanta than these, like, asking for $1.59. I don't care if it's coming out of New York to go to West Palm Beach. It's still a decent rate per day. But let's click on one of these. Picks up Tuesday, delivers. Let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Delivers Friday. So to land in Florida on a Friday, that might be a challenge. 46% below my cost per day. Let's see, $161.25 in tolls. And then you're dealing with Southern Florida, which is definitely not going to be easy to come out of. Right? Here's a full load, $1.04 a mile going from New York to Texas. That's not even, let's see, so that's pretty much a 4-day run. 1788 divided by 4. Yeah. What are you doing, buddy? If you don't negotiate up, that's only 447 a day. So if your costs are 550 a day, that's a losing game, right? Good boy. Now, let's take a look at this load. Let's look at something else, right? So let's look at the outbound. Let's see, why is this so low, right? Does that mean Brookshire, Texas is going to be paying really good coming out? I mean, that's the only way you can justify a $1 a mile. So let's do Brookshire to anywhere. Look at our backhauls here. Well, you're in $4 a mile territory if you're staying in Texas. Here's a good one. 202 to go to Oklahoma City. Okay, but then you're struggling to get Oklahoma City. But look, it's not a whole lot of volume out here. Not a whole lot of volume. So, and these are all old postings. But this is later in the next week, which is probably why it's so low. But you can kind of see what you're getting into. Like, let's look at this Houston to Romeoville, Illinois. Is this going to give me some average rates? Rate check's got it at 22, so it's gone up to come out a little bit, but Cargo Chief's got this at 2,000. A little bit of a difference there. So these are great tools to look ahead and to book ahead and all that kind of nature. Good morning, bros. LOL. There's Mr. Like himself. He called and I said, I'm live, man. I ain't dealing with you right now. Bullywoods, what's up? Top of the morning. Did you ever check out that knife I told you about, TJ? I meant to send you a link for it. I'm trying not to look at it so I don't get it because we hate debt. All right, let's take a look at reefer. And we'll do the same states. Look at all that yellow through here. And then you got Washington, Idaho, which, they're green, but they're going to be softened by these states. All this stuff will be softened because of this. Let's take a look at what's coming out of Washington, shall we? I believe, are apples in season? For people here, are apples in season right now? Look at that, $10 a mile. I'm not even going to attempt to read that. Like, how do you say that out loud? Anyways, that picks up Tuesday going to Stockton. They're 8,800. I imagine there's something else to this because the average is 1,400. Rate check's got it at 19. So there's something sketchy with that. 257, 7,200 to go to Florida. Wow, look at that. So if we take the mileage of this, 2,800 miles, 2,800 divided by 650. Let's say it's a 5-day transit time, right? So you take 7,200 divided by 5, puts it at 1,440 a day. That, my friends, is a good load, especially if it's a one and done. That picks up today too, by the way. So if you're in Washington, you need a reefer load. Let's see if it shows the commodity. Nope, no temperature, no commodity. It is 42,000 pounds, but that's a generic weight, so it could be anything. That's I like that load because it's not too deep in Florida. Well, it kind of is, but you can deal with that. 1440 a day, you can kind of deal with that. Here we go. Walla Walla to Jacksonville. I wonder if this is the same load. This is the one. If this is legit, I would do this one over the other one because Jacksonville is definitely not that deep. Raycheck's got this at 8. Carter Chief's got this at 56. So it's kind of all over the place. And I guess we don't do the green screen stuff anymore, which I'll have to ask Lauren why. What happened to that deal? So this to me, this would be the better one. If these are two separate loads, they could be doing the multiple city thing like TQL does. This one is paying a little bit less, but more per mile going into PA. About 200 less miles, a little bit, actually 150 less miles. But let's look at our tolls since it's Pennsylvania. No toll. Oh no, $160 in tolls. So there's that. You know, Raycheck's got this at $7,000. Cargo Chief's got this at 46. That means people are taking this for 46. So that shows me that Washington has woken up a little bit. Waken up, they're woke for sure, but they have awakened up a little bit on outbound volumes. So that to me, that's probably produce induced. So that means something's in season up there. So now let's take a look at California. Let's see what's coming out of Cali. See what kind of inbound and outbound rates we can get. 244 to go from California to Massachusetts. 3,100 miles, 3,200 actually, 3,198 miles rounded up. California, Florida, $7,700. Some good rates coming out. Cali. Overall rates. You know, it's not the $10,000 we were seeing post COVID, but you know. But now, if we look at the inbound, see what that looks like. Of course, that messed up $10 mile loads up there. 4,200 to go from Iowa to California, 220 a mile. Let's take a look at that one. What's up with this one? Picks up today. They're at 42. Carter Chief's got this at 44. Raycheck's at 33, 32. Now this doesn't deliver till Wednesday. Actually, no, Thursday, actually. So it's a lot of days on this run, probably because of the weekend. You guys are funny. $1.32 from New Hampshire for a reefer run. It's to be expected. That's not, yeah. Because in van that'd be $1. So East Coast California is definitely not a good idea. Greenfield, Indiana to Van Nuys, $1.21 a mile, $3,200. Here we go. Florida to California. $0.99 a mile, $2,800. Not even a full dollar a mile. Let's see what the cost per day is on this one. 72% below my cost per day. Now, granted, my cost per day would be a little bit different if I had a reefer, but I don't. I don't have anything really. But I based it off of my old numbers on my van. See, a lot of these are like 2,800. That's $1 a mile. So if we do the highest rate per mile in and outbound, let's see what that looks like. So highest rate per mile. Of course, that $10 mile load is going to pop up first. Yeah, there it is. Let's ignore it. Tolleson, LA, $275 a mile, $1,000. That's actually pretty good because usually Arizona, California is a backhaul rate. So let's take a look at that one. Let's see what's going on with this one. Drop trailer, multi-delivery. There you go. That's why. Idaho to California, that's actually paying well too. Let's see what's up with this one. No, maybe not. Cargo Chief's got that 15. Raycheck's got it 14. So obviously you could probably call and probably get this for 15 or 16. This picks up on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. That's part of it. You get a little bit of leverage there for a Sunday pickup. Highest pay outbound is rate per mile. California, Nevada. California to Nevada. Colorado. 3,900 to go to Colorado. I like that. You know why? Because we get this at 441, 42. Then we can take our hit out of Colorado. Right. So let's click on this and then let's look at Colorado rates outbound. Right. So we go down here. $1.73 to Ohio. So if you combine the two loads together, that's actually, you probably do okay with that. $1.76 go to Michigan, go visit Jeff there. And that's a 2-day run. So 2 days of hard running. So depending on the timing, that's still $1,000 a day. Even if it's divided by 3, it's still over 700. So, you make $2,000 a day and then go into 700 a day. You combine that together. What's that per day for both loads? That's pretty good. It's not bad. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. Right. Yep. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Gary. Chain laws goes into effect September 1st. Let's see. Let's go back here. Shannon, I already said hi to her. Just telling her to get to work. Mrs. A. Shannon will cash out some cash for you and Steve to go get breakfast. That'd be great. Batman, good morning. Mrs. A. Fly out here and we can hit the gun range. Gary Cook, onions also come out of Washington. Onions, okay. Potato loads also come out of Washington along with Idaho, Oregon, and Colorado. Cheese too. So that's probably why this whole area is woken up a little bit. I can't fly anymore, Jeff. Would need some time off work and drive up. There you go. Colorado chain law goes into effect. Yeah, we talked about that. So road trip, right, Mrs. A? All right, so that's kind of, and then let's go to flatbed flatbed step deck, and it's going to be the same thing. Southeast. See what kind of numbers we got. Yeah, they're definitely down because there's a point where the outbound flatbed and step were in the thousands on this board. Who's the highest right now? Alabama's the highest. but Northwest is doing not too bad. Let's take a look at Washington coming out. 431 to go to Montana, of course. California, 253 going to California from Washington. Now that's interesting to me. So let's take a look at this. So if we're getting 253, so let's do this here. So let's go to market rates, and let's do Seattle to LA. This is what I like about this tool. Oh, and then we need to switch this to flatbed. Okay. About $1,000 a day on average. Now it's been as low as 1130, so that's kind of down. But here's a reason, right? So it's easier to find loads to go to California from Washington, but not back to Washington out of California. There's only two. But you can kind of look and see if there's enough for back and forth, because I'm thinking that maybe you can go back and forth. So if it's 24 to go from Seattle to LA, what's the reverse order? Ooh, it's higher. So that to me can be a consistent lane. So when you go back to these maps, you can make good money by staying in the green area. Don't be tempted by that high paying low going to Montana, because you may not get out of there. And then when you look at like our Georgia, Florida drivers, they do well. Sometimes they deadhead back, sometimes they take a back haul, but their rate per day is consistently high, and they're the highest earners in this company besides the truckside dispatch, and sometimes Shannon, right? So I mean, it's about consistency with me, right? Out west you tend to chase money more, but in this area you tend to chase the rate per day. So I mean, that's what I look for is consistency is the most important thing to me, because it reduces stress, it reduces the spikes and lows. It helps you be proactive instead of reactive when you're looking for loads. You can plan ahead, or you can put yourself in an area where you don't have to plan ahead as much, because regardless of what happens, like for example, if like I booked a load that came out of Memphis yesterday, and my worst case scenario part of my brain goes, well, what if this load cancels? Well, Memphis isn't a bad spot to be in. It's not like we're deadheading to BFE Arkansas, where if that load cancels when they get there, yeah, we get our tow new, but now we're in the middle of nowhere and we're deadheading even more, losing more time. So that's how my brain works. I could sit there and book a load to Laramie, Wyoming, and get the backhaul before I even pick up that load. But then what happens if that reload cancels? Well, now I'm stuck, right? So I would look at the worst case scenario around Laramie. Well, what does that look like? Probably Denver. Well, we're already taking a hit out of Denver if you're lucky to get that. So because everybody else is having the same problem as well. So consistent areas is especially, that's why if you live in North Dakota, or if you live in even like Phoenix or Albuquerque, your strategy has to be different than the guy that lives in St. Louis or Springfield, Missouri, or Columbus, Ohio. Just like our Georgia, Florida guys, their strategies are different than what up here. right? And sometimes we don't have a choice, right? Sometimes you got that contract load that goes, okay, I've got 5 loads that go to Montana every week. And so sometimes you're dealing with no backhaul because you got to service that contract. Well, your highest priority should be, let's find a contract of stuff that's outbound Montana. Find the broker that at least has that. Hey, do you have a whole lot of loads coming out of Montana? Actually, I do have a customer coming out of there. Well, hook me up. And then that's how relationships are built. That's how business is done. You combine the contract with the spot market. But to gain consistency, if you're spot market only, you look for the brokers and the freight that has consistency regardless. Like, I know I can send a truck into Columbus and not struggle for the most part. There's a couple of times a year where that's not true, but for the most part, I can at least look in the areas. Now, will the rate be where I want it? Maybe not on those different times of the year. But with volumes being as low as they are, there's going to be a backhaul market that you're going to hit at some point or another. Even if you're running one lane consistently, there's going to be a cut somewhere. So you got to compensate for that. So remote viewer says, welcome to Costco. I love you. I love Costco too. Yeah, I love a good road trip. There you go. Have a great day, truckers. SST is late, but here, that's all that counts. Good morning, everyone, says Cheap Freight Hauler. So anyways, 48065, the travel to the low board for free for 30 days. If you have any questions on the tools, feel free to email me at snorelord@yahoo.com or any other questions that you might have. Members get some perks if you want to become a member. Let's take a look at DAT volumes real quick. This is for Van. I'm not going to get into the weeds with the others here. Some low numbers. California's got some decent outbound numbers. Florida, the ratio is getting tighter, so that's kind of nice. Goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Same thing with Georgia. But not big volumes. Illinois still looks good, of course. So if you're in Illinois, Indiana, you're looking good. If you're in Kansas, you're screwed. Kentucky's not great. Maryland's not great. Let's see, where's my bigger numbers? Hardly any 4-digit numbers. Jersey has 1,200 coming out, so you might do okay there, but not as well as you think because there's soft markets around it. New York has actually got good outbound ratio, so that's kind of nice. Ohio's even Steven. Oregon, look at Oregon. 509 van loads coming out of Oregon. That's higher than normal. Texas, look at Texas. 2562 going in and 1600 coming out. Look at that. So I might have to investigate that. Why is that so low? Probably because of the holiday. Of course, Wisconsin's doing pretty good. Washington's doing pretty good too. So evidently there's been some kind of paradigm shifts going on. So we'll see what September brings, right? We'll see what September brings. Who's going to be sitting on a load until Tuesday because the broker said the receiver will be open Monday? Yeah, there's several here. And look, if you're a YouTube influencer, don't announce where you're at. Man, I got to sit on Monday or Tuesday. That just makes you a target for theft. So, but yeah, cheap freight. Yep, I've got a couple of drivers going through that. So, and that's what I said in the beginning of this podcast is that confirm after you book, because the broker may not want to tell you that it sits until Tuesday so they can like cut the rate because they don't want you going, well, I need an extra blah, blah, blah to sit on an extra day. So there's a lot of that going on, and that's why that happens. So with that being said, Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. I hope you guys, if you are at home, I hope you're enjoying you will enjoy your weekend, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And if you're out there working, be safe. A lot of speed traps are going to be out there, so don't be doing stupid stuff. A lot of DOT and even local police forces are using semi trucks to enforce distraction laws. So just keep that in mind. Don't be going down the road scrolling through a load board thinking that you're going to find the load. So, anyways, strength for today, over for tomorrow. We will see you next week. Peace.